But I met this gal in boot camp. Her name was Patty, and she was from Montana. And I was what 17? No, yeah, still 17, and she was 22. So I thought, oh my goodness, she's so much older, she's more experienced. We became friends, and we helped each other out in boot camp. My mother did everything. I had never done laundry. So I was good at shining shoes. We had each other's back. Well, we ended up getting schools together. So we transferred from Bainbridge and from boot camp, went home on leave, then went to Bainbridge for our school, which was about 4 months, I guess. We ended up getting orders to Japan together, too. So here we go. This is my shipmate, my running mate. And I had gone home on leave after school, and she went back to Montana. And I had never been to Montana, so I said, I'll come visit you, and then we'll go to San Diego, where we were going to fly out of to go to Yokosuka, Japan. Well, I'll never forget, it was September, and we had been partying out in town, and we ended up getting separated, and she went home, and I can't even tell you where I went now. But I remember waking up, and it was snowing in September. I just go, oh my goodness. And her brother was getting married that weekend. So anyway, we leave there, and we go to San Diego, and we had to be there a few days. And we said, well, we're sailors now. We need to get tattoos. So we go down to, I don't know, we call it Shit Street, where the bars and the tattoo parlors are, and get our first tattoos. They were small. I got addicted to tattoos later on, so I have more. And we go to Japan, and this is back when planes were nice, even big. You could walk around, you could smoke on them, you could walk around to the back, stand up, carry on conversations. You had lots of room, and it's a long flight. And we flew into Yokota Air Force Base in Japan, which is quite a distance from Yokosuka. And so they sent sponsors of people that pick you up. And so I'll never forget, we go down there, and it's evening by then, probably early evening, and they take us to the barracks, and it's a Friday. And now I'm one of the first 5 women to be stationed at this command and on the base, except for nurses who have been in the military forever and all over. But this was new territory for the men, having women come in. So we go to the barracks. It's Friday night, and the women are just sitting there. And we say, what are you doing? It's Friday. Why aren't you out? Oh, there's nothing to do here, just a club, and outside the main gate there's just bars and hookers. And Patty and I looked at each other, we threw our suitcases down, hit the showers, got dressed, and went out in town. I'll never forget, my department head said, we were gone for 3 days, my department head said, I was a RMSA at the time, that's one up from E1, E2. He says, Seaman O'Brien, usually people are here for a few days before they make it out the main gate. I said, well, sir, I had to check it out. Didn't disappoint me. I'll never forget it. I've seen so many changes during my 20 years of service for women. Like I said, I started out, we were called WAVES, Women Auxiliary Volunteer Emergency Services. There were restrictions on where we could be stationed at that time. Women didn't serve on ships. And our sea duty was considered overseas duty. And A lot of men had grief with this because we were taking up shore billets they could have had, but for their rotation. But we didn't have any choice. I think the military or the Navy, at least where I saw it in the beginning when women started getting stationed overseas, was wanting the men to change too much to accommodate us. And actually, to make it, I think, easier, but we didn't know. We're checking in on how things are done. And I remember we were giving jobs that normally you work up to. Because when you first come in, you get the shit details. You clean the heads. You do anything anybody else doesn't want to do, you do. So, like I said, we were given positions working out on the deck. Working a broadcast, typing up messages, sitting at the gate because you can't just get into communications spaces. It's very secure. You have to have clearances. So you're handing out badges. Pretty easy job. So I remember, they made all the men pull down their posters of women. I told them they couldn't use profanity. They made it to where they kind of resented us for being there. And they didn't think we were going to be able to carry the load either. I remember I was working, it's called a broadcast, and it's a 3-tier bank of teletypes. And they keep running, and it's messages from the fleet. You have one that's for different circuits that you monitor, okay? So, short as I am, I was reaching up for the paper, and it had gotten messed up, and I start cussing. You burn. And this young man that was off to the side of me working a teletype circuit, talking to me, he says, "What did you say?" I said, "Huh?" He said, "You know we're not allowed to use profanity because of you women?" I said, "Well, who said that?" "Well, Mr. Anderson, the division officer." So smart-ass me, being the way I am, I go up topside and knock, knock, knock. "Mr. Anderson." He said, "Yes, Seaman O'Brien." I said, I have a question. I said, I was downstairs and something got messed up, and I started swearing, and this third-class petty officer said to me they weren't allowed to use profanity. I said, "Mr. Anderson, what the fuck is profanity?" And then I said, "Can we have a talk?" Because the guys, I don't know, I was trying to find what was going on. And I said, you're creating resentment for giving us these jobs that men had basically worked up to because, you think you have to treat us with kid gloves. I don't know. And so after that, it was like any time they had a problem with females, I got called up there. We had first-class petty officers that were supervisors. When people know they can get away with something, they will. And so some of the women that just basically didn't want to work or have time off, their monthly cycle, "Oh, I have to go back, I have cramps," or whatever. Well, when it happened 2 or 3 times a month, and the supervisor's not saying anything because they're afraid to talk to the women about sensitive issues. I remember Mr. Anderson called me up. I was third class at this time. And about this time, after we'd been there for a while, people were getting pregnant. Women were getting pregnant. More women were coming in. And he says, "Petty Officer O'Brien, how are all these women getting pregnant?" I said, "You don't know how?" You have to laugh. And eventually things got better. We had, when you first come in, you have the guys trying to have some fun with the women. So on their off time, so they're doing their job. They're cutting them slack. And then when they don't get where they think they should be getting, they start bad-mouthing. "Oh, they can't handle the load." Then you have the women doing the same thing, using the guys. And you need somebody that's willing to open their mouth and step in, and you don't know who has to change first, the men's attitude or the women's. And that stuff still continues. I'm probably still today, even though I'm not out there. But for me, my attitude was I can work just as hard and I can party just as hard, and I'm a sailor. And that's what I want to be considered, a counterpart. No special favors. I want to experience the whole Navy thing on my own. And that's how I made it, made it through my career. And I love Japan. I loved all the countries I lived in because I would live on the economy and get in with the locals and become friends, actually part of their families almost. And they teach me how to cook. I was invited to all their special holidays. I remember one Japanese New Year's, this family that I was close with got me a kimono and dressed me all up and did my hair up and had the pictures with their children. And that was kind of special. And like I said, I love food. I'm a foodie. I love food, so I'll try anything once. And I love Japanese food. Well, I like all food, but so I learned how to make sukiyaki and yakitori and curry and all of that. So I was there for 3 years. I'll tell you, I remember the winters being so cold. We didn't have central heat or anything. You use space heaters. And in Japan, you have these futons, these blankets that are big, thick, and bundle up underneath them. You don't want to get out of them in the morning to go light this thing to get the room warm. One of the main things that stands out for me in Japan was how safe it was. I used to have to be on watch at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I would take a train. You don't need to drive. I would take a train and be one or two people on the platform and never worry about my safety. People didn't lock cars or apartments. I don't think I ever locked anything up. You have open markets where these vendors or people that have these stalls with vegetables or fruits or food next to each other. Well, if they know somebody down here, they just leave and go talk to them knowing that nothing's going to get stolen. People had respect for the police there. I just thought that I haven't been back. I hope it's kind of still that way today because that kind of culture is kind of neat. I always, outside any base, now I'm talking back, not now, because the military has changed so much now in regards to how you spend your off time, basically your life. Outside of bases, there are bars, lots of bars. And you got gals that work in them. And a lot of people don't approve of their lifestyle. I never judged anybody or never looked down on the women, the local women in the clubs, because a lot of times, or most of the time, they had no other way of making a living. The countries are so poor, and they're supporting their families, putting their siblings in school, footing the bills, and they're people, and I know better. So I always had fun, and it was kind of like a protection too, because I drank a lot back in those days. One incident, it stands out in my mind that's kind of hard to forget. Outside the base, there was this club called Club Alliance. I think back in the 60s, it was really jamming because it had like 2 floors and they had slot machines and restaurants and stuff like that. Well, they still had some of that, but it wasn't utilized like the stories that I had heard about the 60s. I wish I kind of had been there. So I was with my friend Patty.